You know, when the nation is facing a crisis like the one we're in now, there's a federal statute that says, it's called the Defense Production Act, that tells that the President and Commander-in-Chief could require companies to use their equipment and employees to make certain products needed for the national defense. The act was enacted by President Trump in response to this COVID-19 pandemic. Some feel that the President could better utilize the statutes. Goods and supplies seem to be spread out across the country, and there seems to be a little lack of coordination of getting them to the most needed places in the right amount of time. But others disagree. Regardless of how you feel about the President's leadership, he holds the power to say that the nation needs it and you have it, and so that settles it. This type of law has been a staple of every major empire since before the time of Jesus. In fact, during Jesus' day, the Roman government ruled the land, and the Roman government could use their power for forced labor and forced economic support from all the territories and people they ruled over. And they used this forced labor practice with the Jewish people. They compelled people to pay taxes and to perform work. Biblical scholar Walter Wink talks about this in his commentary on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus gets to the part in his sermon where he says, you know, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, then go the second also. We've so often misread this part of the passage. In fact, we've misread so much of the Gospels to make them fit our privileged lives. But this particular passage isn't simply talking about, you know, taking your neighbor a bag of sugar when they only ask for a cup. I mean, that's a nice thing to do for sure. But what Walter Wink points out is that what Jesus is referring to in this passage is about people going the second mile. It's a practice of forced labor in the Roman government.
Daniel, don't tire yourself. We have a long way to go.
But I'm bored.
Well, then pay attention. One day you'll be leading your family to the feast, and you'll need to know the way.
Father, how far is it to Jerusalem?
If we make good time, we should be there tomorrow night. If not, it will take us another day.
Halt in the name of Caesar.
Shalom.
Where are you traveling, Jews?
To the feast, sir, if it pleases you.
Well, today you have a detour. I'm traveling east, and I choose you to carry my pack.
Found this one hiding behind a rock. Amazing what lengths they'll go to
avoid work.
Place the packs down here.
You're free to go.
Father, they said we could stop.
Hey, where are you going, Jew?
Daniel.
But Father...
Halt! I said you may go. Why are you still walking?
I can go farther.
The law only requires you to go 1 mile.
And that's what I've done, according to the law. But now I choose to go a 2nd mile.
But why?
Because that's what I've been taught to do.
I mean, imagine a Roman soldier pleading with a Jew to give back his pack so he doesn't get in trouble for breaking the rules. I mean, the humor of this scene may have escaped us, but it certainly didn't escape those who were listening to this story during Jesus' day. See, what's different in our context during this COVID-19 crisis is that when they see the need, when they know what's being asked is for the common good, you know, people, they don't always have to be forced to step up and help. I mean, we have factories and private citizens all over this country converting their sewing operations into creating masks for healthcare workers to help keep them safe. We have companies who have shut down their normal factory operations and are now making ventilators. We have the majority of the entire world population participating in a stay-at-home order to help flatten the curve. Now the problem is that some don't take it seriously. Some have taken their cues from dangerous rhetoric that said this is a hoax, or people are putting out dangerous messages that this is some sort of conspiracy theory by the government. I mean, that's why it's so important that people can trust the institutions of the government, because when they do, when we trust the institutions, then people will willingly comply with requests. When people trust their leaders, they will give whatever is asked of them in order to help those leaders achieve their mission. Jesus in Matthew 21 tells two of his disciples to go and find me a donkey tied together with its colt and bring them to me. And Jesus says, if anyone asks what you're doing, just say the Lord needs it. I mean, this term, Lord, it wasn't always associated with Jesus at this point. This term was used to address royalty, or even more important for the Jewish people, this term was to address God. And so Jesus, self-identifying himself as the Lord, is making a powerful theological statement. He's identifying himself as the true king of God's people. He's identifying himself as the true king of God's kingdom. I mean, I used to think it was odd that Jesus would just have his disciples, go and steal someone's donkeys. But in this context, it makes perfect sense. You see, Jesus is invoking sort of like this rule of impressment, because everything we have and all that we are belongs not to ourselves, not to any worldly leader, but to God. Everything is God's. God is sovereign over all of life. I mean, there are no boundaries in God's kingdom. I mean, basically, Jesus is telling his disciples to go and find me those donkeys. And if anyone asks, just say, you have it, and God needs it, and that settles it. And this is the whole practice of stewardship, where we care for God's creation. I mean, God is the one who gives us the power to care for the world and to care for each other. And when God calls, we give. When God calls, we are to give of our time and our energy and our resources, and to do the work of the Lord, to be the church. Do you have a heart like the owner of those donkeys? It is clear he was willing to share for the glory of God. He didn't have to be forced. He had it. God needed it. That settled it. Right now in our country, in our community, there is so much that God needs from us in the midst of this global pandemic. Yes, God needs us to practice physical distancing so that we can keep ourselves and each other healthy. But God also needs us to go look in our pantries, especially if we were panic buying and now hoarding food, because there are people right here in our own community who are hungry and who are in need. That's why Deep Run collected food for the Penridge Fish Food Pantry on Saturday, and we'll be doing so again next Saturday, April 11th. I mean, if you have it, I'm telling you, the Lord needs it. And that should settle it. May you in your own life live like the one in Matthew 21 who was sharing donkeys with Jesus. May you make it a rule of life that if you have it and God needs it, then that settles it. May you live as if you truly believe that everything you have and all that you are truly comes from God. Because when you live like that, it becomes a joy to give of your time, of your energy, of your resources. It becomes a joy to give because you will know that everything you give, you are giving to God.